Ves laid her hand on the Thaurk. The giant was asleep, his breath faint as the wind in the dunes. The roots were drying up, the rivers receding. But she would not turn her back. She vowed she would find a way to make him walk again. You are listening to the final reworking of one of the species from the first edition of the Fantasy Creature Contest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave you a link in the description. In a nutshell, together with my community, I created a large number of fantasy or science fiction creatures. It is a creative effort aimed, despite its name, at encouraging sharing rather than competition. You can find a written version of this species on my website, www.francescogozzo.com, if you want to read the details at your leisure. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the other creatures and the grand tournament, during which we will choose our favorite. Also, if you want to actively support the channel, you can do so through Patreon or by purchasing some of my books on Amazon, links in the description. Chapter 1 – Introduction. Presentation. The Thaurk are towering gentle giants that roam desert expanses, carrying entire ecosystems on their immense backs. Lush forests, flowing rivers, and thriving animals communities sustained by the layer of fertile soil and moisture retained from rare rains. Their magical life-sustaining aura revitalizes the arid lands they traverse, making them vital custodians of the desert life. However, their magic is fading, their numbers are dwindling, and the ecosystem they support are withering. The recent discovery of ancient Titan relics, artifact brimming with elemental energy, offers hope that their life-giving power can be restored, securing both their survival and the balance of the desert they protect. Physical appearance. The Thaurk are colossal, gentle giants whose immense bodies resemble moving mountains draped in life. Their skin is rough, earthen hide streaked with mineral veins and patches of moss, lichen, and flowering plants. Fertile soil cling to their broad, curved backs, nourished by hidden reservoirs of moisture and magical currents. Towering trees rise from their spines, and cascading streams often flow along their sides, making them appear like walking oases in the desert. Chapter 2 – Traits and Mechanics. Abilities. The inhabitants of a Thaurk's back have adapted to a life of constant, slow movement across the desert extremes. Skilled in vertical ecosystem navigation, they climb seamlessly between forest canopies, soil-rich mid-levels, and deep root zones using rope bridges, grown vine ladders, or wind-powered lifts. Many possess a resource harmonization, the ability to manage scarce sunlight, water, and soil through ingenious irrigation systems and shade crafting techniques. Trained in ecosystem defense, they coordinate with animals and oasis wards to repel predators or poachers. Trained in ecosystem defense, they coordinate with animals and oasis wards to repel predators and poachers. Scouts take the skies on trained birds, while earth workers set living traps for thorny plants and shifting sand. Spiritual leaders and druids can perform elemental resonance rites to renew the Thaurk's magic, ensuring the survival of their living home. Skilled artisans craft mobile sky spires, floating extensions of the ecosystem used for farming, water collection, and high-range scouting without adding strain to the Thaurk's back. Languages. While the Thaurk themselves communicate in deep, resonant rumbles understood only by those attuned to their magic, the communities living atop them speak a shared tongue known as Oasis Cant, a hybrid language blending desert nomadic, druidic, and regional dialects. Chapter 3 – Culture and Traditions. Society. The ecosystem atop Thaurk form intricate, multi-tiered communities where canopy dwellers in the treetops trade and gather sunlight-based resources, while ground dwellers near the soil cultivate crops, maintaining water system, and care for the ecosystem's roots. Though resources like sunlight, water, and space are limited, sometimes sparkling tensions, these are resolved by wise caretakers who mediate disputes and preserve harmony. All inhabitants share in the defense of their colossal home, with birds serving as scouts and burrowing creatures building traps or barriers, creating a united front against predators and poachers, despite the challenges of life on a moving giant. Philosophy and personality. The civilizations living atop Thaurks tend towards a stoic and pragmatic temperament, shaped by a scarcity of resources and the slow, deliberate pace of their moving homes. They are driven primarily by hope and survival, with ambition often tied to safeguarding their community rather than personal gain. Life on a Thaurk fosters a cooperative mindset, though rivalries can spark between canopy dwellers and ground tenders over sunlight or water's rights. Their habits include daily observation of the horizon for threats, communal water rituals at dawn, and the quiet, almost reverent maintenance of the Thaurk's ecosystem. Values and philosophy. At their core, Thaurk communities uphold harmony between life and its carrier, valuing balance, stewardship, and mutual resilience over dominance or conquest. They see the world as an interconnected web where the health of one element sustains the whole. Some tribes are idealistic, believing in the sacred duty to protect all life the Thaurk carries, while others are pragmatists, willing to sacrifice certain parts of the ecosystem for the surviving of the greater whole. A minority adopt fatalistic worldview, convinced that Thaurk's decline is inevitable and prepare for life without them. Factions. Thaurk-backed civilizations are shaped in several key factions. The Wardens of Verdance, druids and healers devoted to preserving the Thaurk's health through sacred rites. The Skyspire Guild, innovative engineers who construct mobile sky spires to expand resources without burdening the giant. The Sandroot Syndicate, opportunistic smugglers and traders who exploit the Thaurk's rare good for profit. And the Oasis Keepers, pragmatic settlers in desert sanctuaries who advocate abandoning the Thaurk to safeguard their people and culture. Rituals and celebrations. Coming-of-age rites involve a three-tier journey. The initiate must spend time in the canopy, mid-soil and root layers, performing tasks that benefit each community. The Verdant Breath Festival celebrates rare rainfalls, with song, dances, and the planting of new flora across the Thaurk's back. The alignment rite, performed every few years, sees the entire community creating vast rune patterns in the soil to channel the desert elemental forces. Arts. Their art blend practicality and beauty, woven canopy murals that tells migration stories, root-carved reliefs depicting history events, and wind harp towers that use desert breeze to create haunting music. Spirals, tree rings, and wave patterns recur as symbol of growth, time, and the cyclical nature of life. Education. Knowledge is primarily passed orally through story circles, where elders recount history, myths, and practical lessons. Chapter 4. Relationships and interactions. Relationship with other species. The Thaurk's existence is deeply intertwined with the wider world, inspiring reverence, exploitation, and diplomacy. Nomadic desert tribes worship them as divine custodians of life, making pilgrimages to offer gifts and blessings in hope of ensuring the desert prosperity. In contrast, poachers seek to exploit the rare plants, medicinal herbs, and magical fluids found on their bodies, endangering both the Thaurk and their ecosystems. Meanwhile, civilizations bordering the desert engage in trades with the Thaurk's inhabitants, exchanging enchanted seeds, medicinal plants, and magical artifacts. Alliances and rivalries emerging as factions compete for access to these living treasures. Chapter 5. History and Mythology. Origins. The Thaurk's origins are wrapped in mystery, preserved through oral traditions and ancient texts. One widely told story speaks of a druidic civilization that, during apocalyptic drought, when desert consumes entire forests and lakes, performed a powerful ritual to transform ordinary giants into vessels of life. These newly created Thaurk became walking sanctuaries, carrying the last remnants of nature across the wastelands. Another legend attributes their creation to the Titans, elemental beings charged with maintaining balance of the world, who imbued the Thaurk with their own essence, granting them the power to safeguard life during cataclysmic times. Scattered across the desert are the relics of these Titans, brimming with elemental energy and believed to hold the key to restoring the Thaurk's dwindling magic. Legends and symbols. The Thaurk hold deep cultural significance, their legacy preserved in myth shared by the many beings and civilizations they owe them survival. One legend tells of the first Thaurk, born during a devastating drought, who carried the last remnants of a forest and river across the desert, becoming a beacon of hope and inspiring the living ecosystem on Thaurk's backs. Another tale speaks of the Titan's gift, in which elemental titans, foreseeing the desert's relentless spread, transformed ordinary giants into life-bearers and entrusted them with maintaining nature's balance, a sacred duty the Thaurk have upheld for millennia. Role in recent events. The Thaurk's sustaining magic is fading, leaving both them and the ecosystem they bear increasingly vulnerable. At their age, their bodies become brittle and less fertile, unable to support the once thriving habitants on their back, forcing the resident plants and animals to struggle for survival in the unforgiving desert. In response, some communities have begun building desert sanctuaries, artificial ecosystems in oases or deep underground caverns, using a mix of magic and technology to preserve flora, fauna, and even entire settlements. Yet, not all efforts are benevolent. Ruthless factions exploit the Thaurk by harvesting their magical fluids, rare plants, and mineral-rich hides for profit, accelerating their decline. Chapter 6. Magic and Technology. Magic and Knowledge. The Thaurk possesses unique magical traits tied to their role as living arcs. Through elemental resonance rites, inhabitants and desert tribes can restore Thaurk's fading magic by attuning to the desert elemental forces. Sand, wind, and rare rains, forming glowing ruins in the soil, or chanting resonant hymns that revitalize both giants and ecosystem. Within their lush back dwells oasis wards, semi-sentient elemental spirits that guide water flows, foster plants' growth, and protect against magical corruption or poachers, communicating with inhabitants in time of crisis. Finally, the Thaurk can exhale the breath of verdance, a magical mist that spreads life energy through the air, renewing vegetations and stabilizing delicate habitats. Technology and innovation. The Thaurk's inhabitants blend primitive survival skills with ingenious ecological engineering, creating a unique tech level that feels part medieval, part solarpunk. Their most iconic invention is the mobile Sky Spire, a light-weighted, floating tower tethered to the Thaurk's ecosystem. Powered by wind or solar energy, these spires extend vertically to allow farming, water collection, and long-range scouting without taxing the Thaurk's resources. Smaller tools include biofiltration systems for water, wind-powered cranes for moving goods between ecosystem layers, and woven glider harnesses for rapid travel between the spire and the desert below. Chapter 7. Religion and Divinity. Beliefs. Most Thaurk-backed cultures are deeply spiritual, venerating the Thaurks as sacred custodians of life and the elemental balance. Chapter 8. Adventurers. Motivations. Inhabitants of the Thaurk may become adventurers for many reasons: to search for the lost Titan relics capable of restoring their giants' winning magic, to protect their mobile homes for poachers, rival tribes or magical corruption, to bring back resources or technologies that can improve life atop the Thaurk, or to act as diplomats and traders with distant civilizations. Chapter 9. Narrative Archetypes. typical roles in stories. Civilizations atop Thaurk are most often portrayed as guardians of nature and wisdom keepers, serving as steadfast allies or enigmatic guides in a wider story. They can also take on the role of reluctant heroes, forced into conflict when their Thaurk is threatened, or as morally complex antagonists when survival drives them to protect their resources, conflicts and dramas. Life atop the Thaurk is not without strife. Internal divisions arise between traditionalists who cling to ancient rites and progressives who push for technological innovations, sometimes leading to factional tension. Leadership disputes, rivalries between canopy dwellers and ground-tier farmers, and resources allocation debates can escalate into community-wide feuds. Eternal threats come into the form of poachers, invading desert warbands, and territorial disputes with neighboring Thaurk's communities or land-based civilizations. Spiritually, they grapple with crises of faith as Thaurk magic fades, the moral dilemma of exploiting the giants for survival, and the danger of non-magical corruption seeping into their ecosystem. Themes: the story of the Thaurk and their inhabitants revolves around universal struggles, the balance between nature and technology, tradition and progress, and the coexistence versus exploitation. They embody the tension between freedom and interdependence, as well as the resilience of life in hostile environments. Their narratives often explore how communities adapt or fracture when the foundation of their world began to wither. Chapter 10: Narrative Applications. Plot Ideas. Adventurers involving Thaurk's communities often centers on dilemmas that blur the line between survival and morality. Characters might be called to defend a Thaurk from poachers, while uncovering a conspiracy within its own inhabitants. Broker peace between feuding canopy and root-tier factions, or embark on a perilous quest to retrieve a lost Titan relic said to restore fading magic. In other stories, the Thaurk's slow migration path might intersect with hostile territories, forcing negotiations or battle over passage rights. As protagonists, these communities can lead epic journey to save their desert homes. As allies, they offer rare magical resources in exchange for aid. As antagonists, they may deny outsiders access to life-saving water or medicine to preserve their own survival. Interesting settings. The Verdant Crest is a sprawling oasis forest that crowns the back of the Thaurk Samirath, one of the oldest living giants in the desert. Its upper canopy hosts sunlit sky gardens and observation platforms linked by rope bridges, while its shadowed lower tier contains cool, damp farmlands fed by tickling rivulets of mossy springs. A network of mobile sky spire extends above the treetops, harvesting winds and sunlight to power irrigation pumps and aerial farms. At its heart lies the Circle of Roots, an open-air council space where leaders, druids and sky scouts gather to resolve disputes and commune with the Thaurk's oasis wards. Iconic character: Elarin Mossvale, a calm, silver-haired elder druid with bioluminescent tattoos that glow when communing with the Thaurk spirits, serves as the impartial mediator of the root tier. Though rumor whispers she holds dangerous knowledge about the giant's decline, Tavren Skyfang Rel, a daring Skyspire captain, rides wind currents on a glider to gather rare herb and intelligence from distant lands, his fierce loyalty to his people often clashing with the impatience of the council deliberations. Vashir of the Shifting Sands, a charismatic envoy draped in shimmering sand-colored silks, broker trades between Thaurk inhabitants and desert tribes, masking his shrewd and sometimes ruthless pragmatism behind a warm and diplomatic exterior. And that's all for now. There are certainly some details we can perfect, aspects to expand, and I would like to write a short story for each of these creatures. I'll see what to do in the future, but in the meantime, I can't wait to kick off the grand tournament!